Hello and welcome to this video, which will explain to you the brand new Comic-Con Highway feature brought to you by WrittenSiNs and Opinion Stage. Our main page starts off with, on our site, the cool off in August by taking the Comic-Con Highway to the closest Comic-Con near you. This transports you to Opinion Stage if you wanted it to, but most of this we run through the site to help promote different cons around the world. And I truly mean around the world. And if anyone has a con that they want added to our list, it's up to you guys to let me know. So now here's how it works. This is actually featured on a different site. So when you first come to it, I'm just going to show you guys real quick and reload this page. As it loads, you're going to notice that it's not fully there yet. See those little circles? That's because it's loading off of our site. We do this deliberately to keep the load times down. And just as a heads up, cosplayers are more than welcome to tell us about their appearances, and we're more than happy to add them to the list. The different regions have been changed. We have now made it a little bit of a shorter thing. We're basing it on the, right here, you'll see it in the Census Regions and Divisions of the United States, which categorizes the United States into 4 regions. Those being the West, the Midwest, the Northeast, and the South. So we're using that logic to now streamline this, and we're going to wind up showing you the different areas. Now, WrittenSiNs has its own schedule, so if you wanted to see its schedule, if you're on this page, you would just hit this button. If you wanted to see the cons near you in the Northeast, which gets this cool orange and blue highway thing, because New York's, of course, my home for life. I'm always going to be a New Yorker at heart. So New York City got that big up, and you see the new graphics, a little more eye-catching than the original ones. This was a prototype beta program that has now gone into full release, full year-long coverage. And the cool thing about this that I just want to mention now is that when you do something like this and you take this and you have it on social media, you take my code and you go to share it, you copy it and put it on your page, and it shows the WrittenSiNs thing. This will always update on its own now. You only need to have this saved one time. When you have it saved one time, it'll continually update as we update it on Opinion Stage. So that's pretty cool. So as these events fall off, perfect example, my next event for the WrittenSiNs group is we're invading the Infinitive Toy and Comic-Con in Orlando. I'll see you there on August 26th. After August 26th, this will go to the background, but the newest one will pop up over here. In the background, I've been counting all the shows and leaving them. Most of the list just drop the shows off and you don't see them again. Then we go to Georgia right after that, the week later. We're in Georgia for Dragon Con and so on and so on. And this is how these lists will go. Now, let's just say that you're looking for a Comic-Con, because this is all where WrittenSiNs are going to be. But let's talk about you guys. Let's say that you are looking for a Comic-Con. So you come here, you come to our site, and you hit the Comic-Con Highway, and you just go here, and you hit that button. The first thing that will come up is the latest thing, which will, of course, the latest thing has been the cool off in August. So you go there, and this is going to give you your regions list. Now, you can also find your regions list on our new integrated system of menu options right here, and you can see that right there on the side. It gives you the Florida exits. Now, the reason Florida gets its own menu is because it has so many cons. There's no state that has as many cons as Florida. Texas comes close. I'm debating whether or not Texas will get one. I just don't know a lot of people in Texas to update me on all the events, but Texas is pretty big. It gets a lot of them. And I'm not talking small shows. I'm talking big shows. Small shows pop up everywhere, but Florida, counting the small shows, has had about 20 to 25 shows this year. So that's averaging 2 a month. And that's where I come from, New York, where at most there were 4 a year. So there are a lot more events, like everyone's been saying. So that's why something like this is important. We also have the Midwest exits, and we're calling them exits, obviously, because we're talking about a Comic-Con highway. So to simplify it, these are all considered the exits off the highway, but the highway keeps running and running and running. And sometimes you have to get off the highway, jump on a plane to get on the highway the other side of the pond, which is the international section, which I don't have listed in here yet, honestly, simply because there has not been a lot of international Comic-Cons for some reason that we have gotten. So if you have international Comic-Cons you want to let me know about, let me know. I don't seem to get them because I don't think people share them as much on social media for some reason, and they don't reach out to me because they think that we don't cover them because I'm from United States and people know me from New York or Florida. But doesn't mean that WrittenSiNs doesn't cover things internationally. We are the International Digital Comic-Con, and as the International Digital Comic-Con, we cover the whole world. So if you have a con, tell me about it. And once that list gets to be something, more than one show coming up in a year, we'll add it to this list. Northeast exits, South's exits, the West exits, and the WrittenSiNs exits that we said. Now, if you don't necessarily know where you are in that exit pool, that's why we have this main graphic on the, and this will always be a graphic that we use for this particular page. This is the page that's going to show you what territories are where, and it does the whole list very quickly, and you can see right there where you are. You're either in the West, the Midwest, the Northeast, or the South. Now, the Northeast, of course, is the smallest region for whatever have you. I don't know why. The biggest being the West, and the South and Midwest are pretty big on their own. So the Northeast is probably going to be your easiest bet if you're in the Northeast to be able to travel to most shows. The rest of them, you're going to have to look. Now, one of the ways that we're dealing with the having to look, we'll go with the not the Northeast. I want to do one that's pretty big in the Southeast, or South, which is really what it is. But it definitely is more the Southeast, because Texas is now involved too. I don't know if Southeast really reflects it completely anymore. But as you guys can see, it's just called the South here. I call it the Southeast just to give everyone an idea that we're not talking about the West. So here we go. Comic-Con Highway to the Northeast. We'll do the South. We'll do the Comic-Con events to the South. Now, the South is the most loaded one so far. So we go here. These are all the ones to the South. You'll see right here, it gives you an idea. Delaware is somehow in the South. I didn't get that. If I were making the census maps, sorry, if I was doing the census maps, I would be doing Delaware and Maryland in the Northeast, but that's just me. But you could see it's Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, District of Columbia, West Virginia, Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Texas are all now part of that South region. So here we are. This is where we go if we're in any of those places. Now, because it's such a big area, I put in parentheses the state that'll be happening. So let's say that you're from the South and you want to see if there are any shows from, we'll say, North Carolina. Oh, look, there's one coming up next to me. Oh, FL is Florida. So we're using the designating two-letter codes for the states, and you can always Google it if you don't know what they are. But everyone always knows theirs. But you'll see Florida, and you'll see Florida's big. North Carolina's big. Florida. I just found out about, I think, a South Carolina show coming up soon that I got to add to the list. Because I do try to search out shows. I don't always add the one-day events because I don't know how well put together they are. If someone asks me, I add them because at least I know they're put well enough that someone's asking me to do it. But some of them just don't have websites or anything to really draw attention to. They have a Facebook group that's not kind of filled out. So I don't really want them on the show. So the one thing I'll say is if you want your event on there, please have at least a Facebook page properly filled out with the dates of the show and how to get tickets. Maybe directions to the show, an address. Those are kind of a criteria for this list. And you can see FL for Fort Myers. And mind you, we're at the end of the Comic-Con year generally. Generally speaking, October were the later shows. But this year, you'll see it's kicking up. They keep going now. Speaking of which, in November, I hit my hometown down here, Southwest Florida's Fort Myers Comic-Con, which we'll have a table at, which I'll tell you about. I'm also going to be doing Claremont the next day. And this is Alyssa Anderson, for those of you who know, the co-creator of Fetish Babies, and my wife's birthday weekend. So I'm in trouble for having two cons this weekend. Not cool. But we will be at both shows because they're hometown shows. And that seemingly right now is going to end my Comic-Con season. But I've been invited to a show to check out in December. So I might be going to a December show, and if I do, it'll be at it. But you guys see it, right? The FL and all that, and we'll look at the Northeast, and we'll notice that the Northeast is hopefully, NJ, New York. I didn't think I needed to put NY for New York Comic Con. We got MD, you know, and PA for, and as you can see, and this is important, we are now officially adding the 2018 shows. Most of them don't have graphics. I can announce that we already started our 2018 countdown with adding already 2 shows to the list for 2018. The WrittenSiNs Sinful Comics table will be hitting Raleigh, North Carolina. We had so much fun. It was such a great show. We weren't even planning to go back, but it really was a good time. I really did enjoy it. SuperCon doing a great thing and splitting Artist Alley from Crafts Alley. So to support them for doing the right thing, we will be back in Raleigh. And we will be at MegaCon Orlando Memorial Day weekend. So we've already started to plan our 2018. So yes, if you have a 2018 appearance that you want listed now, get in quick. So here's how it's going to go. Right now, this year, we've been able to show, and you can see this, mine added here, which we're going to add the table number when we know it and all that. But as these build up, what'll wind up happening, because we had this at one point. Okay, here's the 3 rules about it. If a con is so big that a lot of people want to be added to it, that con will get its own page. It'll get its own list, as it were. WrittenSiNs will continue its list, and we'll drop things off. So that'll be ours. But if let's say that there's like 25 shows in the Florida next year, or not Florida, but South. The South easily can fill 25 shows between all the states. We'll start removing the shows. How we'll work it is we'll remove the shows. Like where I put up a thing that we're going to be there, we'll no longer be in there, and we'll just build in a list of people going to that particular show. And if the list gets big enough, it gets its own brand new list underneath it. And in its own different area. We did that for Cherry Hill. We did that for MegaCon Orlando. We might even do it for Tampa Bay MegaCon. I know a lot of people might be going to that, and I'll be asking about that in the coming weeks. Even Dragon Con might get its own. Dragon Con's being a pretty big one. So stay in tune for all that. We are working towards that. But for now, it doesn't seem like an issue. But in 2018, when it becomes an issue, we'll probably just deal with it in the 2 ways of making sure only an event is listed. And if we get to a point where there are too many events, we won't start a second list. We'll start a backup list. And that backup list will translate into it. Because I don't want to split lists. And as things drop off, I'll just add it. So there'll be like a backup, these cons are coming soon list that will start if we get to that. Honestly, I only see that being a problem in the South. The Northeast doesn't have as many for whatever reason. There are a lot more one-day shows in the Northeast. I don't think anyone wants to compete with Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con. Same thing for the West. The West doesn't have a lot of shows, actually. The Midwest it has a lot. The Midwest has kept me busy this year. So the Midwest, the South are definitely the places the most cons are going on. So that seems to be the Comic-Con Highway's favorite stop, is that region. But this is the basic idea. As always, you guys can be added to this right now. Especially with there be plenty of room. We're in August. There's only 4 months left in this particular Comic-Con season. I haven't heard much about any shows in January outside of Florida. I do know that there is 2 shows in Florida that are coming up. I have to look into them more. I believe one of them is a brand new one, and the other one rumored was Fusion Con, which I did enjoy, but I don't know. I've got to reach out and actually send some emails to figure out what's going on. But you guys can see that we'll be at MegaCon Tampa Bay. That's another big one. The very big shows that I know that are still coming, and we can look at that through the WrittenSiNs exits because we're going to a lot of the big ones left. We'll be going to, of course, the Infinity Toy is a 1-day, but it's in Orlando. Orlando's always a big show. Dragon Con is in Atlanta, Georgia. That's a gigantic show. They actually take over a couple different hotels to make it happen. Of course, MegaCon is going to be just amazing in Tampa Bay. New York Comic Con, which as of right now, I'm going as a fan / kind of reporter without full press credentials because for whatever reason we weren't granted press, even though we got press last year. But because it's New York Comic Con, I'm not going to complain. I love the show. I know that they're having a lot of logistic problems with the way that Javits is getting ripped up, so I didn't take it personal. Honestly, I think it's going to be a great show, and I haven't gotten to do a lot of shows as a fan, so I'm kind of excited for New York Comic Con. Southwest Florida, it's going to be big because it's my hometown. The first one this year really did very well that we had in Fort Myers, so I'm excited about this one. And Fabian, the creator of Deadpool, is going to be there. They got some big names hopping up for this one, it looks like, coming down the pike. Claremont, I returned to Orlando. That should be a really good show. And then I go to Chicago Pop Culture, which is a Saturday and Sunday show in Chicago. I am going to Chicago, a brand new environment for me. Never been to Chicago my entire life. Never been to Illinois. I've never been to the Midwest except flying over it. So this is going to be a first for me, being in an area I've never been in. And then we see all the things that we have covered. We've already been to Fort Lauderdale. We were at Raleigh. We were at Virginia Comic Con. We were at, this is the Iacon, which was pretty cool. I dug it. MegaCon Orlando, Fusion Con, Fort Myers. So it's been a long season already, and it doesn't look like it's giving up anytime soon. So that's what these Comic-Con highway maps are for, which we're now calling the, not a map, but it's the Comic-Con highway, which you can see right there. So if you guys know anything about a show coming up and you want us to cover it, let me know. That's it. That's how this works now. You guys can see it's many different facets. It's not one huge list that's overpowering. You'll always be able to get the list right here at Comic-Con Highway by just hitting that. And then one of the first ones I'll always make sure is this one. It's the whole list. To the Cool Off and All closest. I think that's closest. My dyslexia messes with me. I swear that says closet. I'll have my wife look at it and make sure it's the right word. But you get the idea. So, I mean, if you're in Florida, here's your exit. If you're in the Midwest, and if you're curious what the Midwest entails, remember the signs themselves will tell you. So that'll help you out a lot. The WrittenSiNs highway exits. If you want to catch up with me or any of the Alyssa, who will be making some appearances for WrittenSiNs, Jax will be at a couple shows to promote his book. Here are the Comic-Con exits in the West. And this has all just been a process that I hope that is helping. I know it's been popular. I know people have been really appreciative of it. We've gotten a lot of great feedback for it. So we're going to be continuing it. And for those who didn't know, Jax the Anderson is now on Kickstarter. I'm not Kickstarter, sorry. We just got off Kickstarter. It's now on Amazon as a PDF. We're trying to get the book there. We're struggling with that. But that's it for now. It's nap time for Rob, apparently, because I'm stumbling over my words. Thank you for tuning in. This has been the Comic-Con Highway.